Okay, let's unpack this. It is Monday, January 19th, 2026. And I want you to just, for a second, visualize your portfolio. Open that mental app in your head. If you've been in the market for the last few years, you're probably feeling pretty good, maybe even a little invincible.
It has been a very, very good run. I mean, there's really no other way to put it.
Good run is putting it mildly.
Yeah.
The S&P 500 has been on an absolute tear. We're talking, double-digit returns for 3 consecutive years.
3 years.
It feels like the party just won't stop. Everyone's making money. Everyone thinks they're a genius, and the vibes are immaculate.
Which is usually the exact moment you should start paying the most attention.
Exactly, because here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
You have this incredible momentum, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Wall Street telling us, buckle up, we're going higher.
They're predicting another massive year.
But then you look at the history books.
Yeah.
And, well, there's this massive flashing red warning sign.
Midterm election year.
The midterm election year. It's the classic unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. So our mission today is to figure out who's going to win that fight.
Right.
We're going to dive into why 2026 might be a serious roller coaster for your money, why the smart money might be wrong again, and, most importantly, how to handle this uncertainty without panic selling your entire future.
And we're not just guessing. We've got a stack of data here from Carson Research, FactSet Research, and S&P 500 performance metrics going all the way back to 1957.
So let's start with the optimists, because if I'm just reading the headlines today, the future looks bright. What's the bull case telling us?
Well, if you listen to the analysts, the sky's the limit. FactSet Research did something pretty fascinating. They took the median forecast of over 12,800 ratings.
12,000.
Yeah. Think about that volume for a second. That's thousands of analysts looking at every single stock in the S&P 500, crunching numbers on everything from, Apple to the smallest energy company.
That is a lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
A lot of caffeine.
A tremendous amount of caffeine. And when you blend all those expectations together, they're predicting the S&P 500 will climb to 8,085 in the next year.
Whoa. Okay, for context, let's anchor everybody. We're sitting right around 6,940 today.
Right. So getting to 8,085, that implies roughly a 16% upside.
So not a quiet year.
No, that's another banner year. That's a buy a boat kind of year.
Which would make it 4 years in a row of double-digit returns. That feels rare. But also, at this point, it kind of feels intuitive, doesn't it? We've been winning for so long, you just expect it to continue. It's almost muscle memory.
It is. It's human nature to extrapolate the recent past into the future. That's recency bias. We see green arrows, so we just predict more green arrows. But this is where we really need to put that optimism in check. We have to look at the track record of these predictions.
Are you saying their crystal ball might be a little cloudy?
Cloudy is a polite way to put it. Wall Street has a very spotty track record. But what's fascinating here is the direction of their errors lately. They haven't been too optimistic. They've actually been too pessimistic.
Really? They've been underestimating this market.
Consistently. Yeah.
Give us the numbers. How wrong have they been?
Okay, well, look at 2023. Think back to where your head was at. Everyone was screaming recession. The median estimate was 4,200 for the S&P.
Right.
The market just laughed at that and hit 4,770. That's a 14% miss.
Okay, so they aimed low because they were scared of the economy. I get that.
Then came 2024. They predicted 4,700. The market rocketed to 5,882.
Wow.
They missed that by 25%.
That is a massive gap. They really did not see that coming.
It's a huge gap. And even last year, 2025, they adjusted up to 6,500 trying to catch the wave, but the market still beat them, finishing at 6,845. So for 3 years, the smart money has said slow down, and the market has just said, watch this.
So what does this all mean for their 2026 prediction? If they've been underestimating us for 3 years, does that mean 16% is actually conservative? Could we go even higher?
And that is the temptation, right? But here's the trap. Are they finally right this time? Or are they finally chasing the trend just as it's about to turn? It's like a dog chasing a car. Eventually the car stops and the dog just runs right into the bumper.
And specifically, the car in this analogy is stopping because of a specific roadblock.
Correct. 2026 has a variable that 2023, 2024, and 2025 didn't have.
The midterms.
The midterms.
Okay, let's pivot to this, because I feel like every time we hear election year, people get nervous. But is it really that different? The S&P 500 has been around since 1957. Do these years actually behave differently, or is that just noise?
They absolutely behave differently. The data is It's pretty stark. The midterm year is historically the troubled child of the 4-year presidential cycle. It's the sophomore slump.
Troubled child how? Like throws a tantrum in the grocery store?
More like burns the house down trouble. Well, maybe not burns it down, but it definitely shakes the foundation. We need to talk about the intra-year drawdown.
Intra-year drawdown. Okay, no jargon. What does that actually mean for my 401k?
It just means the drop from the highest point of the year to the lowest point of the year. So it doesn't mean the market finishes down, but it means at some point during the year, you are going to see a pretty significant dip.
Okay, so even if the year ends green, I might have a heart attack in July.
Exactly. And history suggests that during a midterm election year, the index will drop about 18% at some point.
18%. Ouch. Okay, let's put that in real money. If I have 100 grand invested, you're telling me that at some point this year, I might look at my account and see it down to, what, $82,000?
That is exactly what the historical average suggests.
Yeah.
Imagine watching nearly 20% of your portfolio value just vanish temporarily. That is a massive psychological hit.
For sure.
Most people can handle 5%, maybe 10, but 18, that is when people start making very emotional decisions.
And panic selling at the very bottom.
Precisely. The point of maximum pain. But there's another layer to this. It's not just any midterm. It's a midterm with a new president in the White House.
Right, because we are in the second year of the current term.
Correct. And when you look at the data for midterm years with a new president, the numbers get even uglier. The average midterm return is usually a meager 1%, basically flat.
Which would be a huge shock after 3 years of double-digit growth.
But when it's a new president, the index typically declines by an average of 7% for the year.
So not just a drop during the year, but actually finishing the year in the red. Why? What is it about a new president that makes the market so nervous?
It all comes down to one word: uncertainty.
Markets hate uncertainty.
They despise it. Uncertainty is poison to the stock market. When you have a midterm, especially with a new administration, investors, they just don't know the rules of the game anymore. The party in power almost always loses seats. That's just a historical fact.
So the market is worried about the balance of power shifting.
Exactly. Investors are unsure where to put their money because they don't know if the president will have the votes to maintain the status quo. It creates gridlock, or even worse, a reversal of policy. And for 2026, there's a very specific context here.
We're talking about tariffs and policy changes.
Right. And we have to be very clear here. This isn't about taking a political side.
No.
Whether you think tariffs are great or terrible, the market does not care about your opinion. The market cares about stability. And there is a genuine concern that if Democrats win enough seats, policies under President Trump, especially those tariffs, could be rolled back.
I see. So it's not tariffs are good or tariffs are bad. It's that changing the rules halfway through the game is scary.
That's it. That is the mechanism. If a company has built its entire supply chain around a certain tariff structure and suddenly that might all change, that company freezes. They stop spending, they stop hiring, and their stock price reflects that. The market is trying to price in a future it can't see.
It's the fog of war.
It is. And businesses hate operating in the fog.
So we have Wall Street saying plus 16% and history saying prepare for an 18% drop and maybe a negative year. That is a massive disconnect. It sounds pretty grim, honestly. Should we just pack it up and go home?
Well, hold on. This is where it gets fascinating, because if you can stomach the volatility, there is actually a light at the end of the tunnel.
Please tell me there's a twist. I need a twist.
There is a big twist. Despite all this doom and gloom, these midterm years often set up massive buying opportunities. It's the storm before the calm.
Okay, I'm listening. When does the sun come out?
Once the election results are finalized, the minute the uncertainty dissipates, it almost doesn't matter who wins, just that we know who won. The market usually rallies hard.
Just knowing the rules again is enough.
It is. According to Carson Research, the 6-month period following a midterm election, so we're talking November 2026 through April 2027, is historically the strongest part of the entire 4-year presidential cycle.
The strongest.
The absolute strongest. The S&P 500 adds an average of 14% just during those specific 6 months.
Wow. So it's basically suffer for 9 months and then party for 6.
In a way, yes. It's a golden period. And it makes sense, right? The bad news is out, the political landscape is set for 2 years, and business gets back to business.
So Wall Street isn't necessarily wrong about the upside. They might just be ignoring the messy middle part.
That's a great way to put it. They see the destination higher prices, but they aren't dwelling on the turbulence during the flight. And we should also note, not all midterm years are disasters. Returns have ranged from up 38% to down 30%.
It's wide range.
A very wide range. Wall Street is just betting that 2026 will be on the better side of that.
But history suggests we're going to have to pay a toll to get there.
Correct. The toll is your peace of mind for a few months.
Okay, so let's get practical. We have this conflicting data, the scary drop, the massive rally. What is the listener supposed to do with this? I mean, the temptation is obvious. I can hear the gears turning. Sell everything now, wait for the drop, buy back in November, and ride the rocket ship.
It sounds perfect on paper, the perfect trade.
But
it's a trap. It's a classic behavioral trap.
why is it a trap? If we have the map, why can't we follow it?
Because the map is blurry, timing the market is virtually impossible. You have to be right twice, you have to sell at the top, and you have to buy back at the absolute bottom.
And that seems easy in hindsight, but in the moment.
In the moment, it's terrifying. What if you sell now and the market goes up another 10% before it drops? You just lost out. What if you wait for the bottom and you miss it by 3 days? You might miss half the rally.
Right. Markets move so fast when they turn. This reminds me of that Peter Lynch quote.
Oh, it's the best one for this. Far more money has been lost by investors trying to anticipate corrections or trying to time the market than has been lost in corrections themselves.
That is so powerful. We cause more damage trying to dodge the punch than the punch would have actually caused.
Exactly. The tax implications, the stress, it's usually not worth it. So selling everything is off the table. But that doesn't mean you do nothing.
Okay, so what is the actionable advice? If I shouldn't sell everything, but I know an 18% drop might be coming, how do I prepare? I don't want to just be a sitting duck.
Strategy number 1, cash is king. For now.
Explain that. Does that contradict what you just said?
Not at all. I'm not saying sell your long-term holds. I'm saying maybe pause on aggressively dumping new money into the market right this second. Build up a war chest.
Because if that historical 18% drop happens...
That is your shopping spree. That is the buying opportunity. You want to have dry powder ready to deploy when everyone else is freaking out.
I like that. Don't fear the dip, finance the dip.
Exactly. When the headlines are the scariest, that's usually when the forward returns are the best.
Okay, what about the stocks I already own? Or if I really want to buy something now?
Strategy number 2, conviction. Limit your purchases to your highest conviction ideas.
Define that for us. What does high conviction look like in a year like this?
It means you ask yourself this one question. If this stock drops 20% next month, will I panic and sell? Or will I be excited to buy more at a cheaper price?
That's the litmus test.
That's it. If the answer is, I would feel sick or I'd sell to stop the pain, then you shouldn't own it, not in a midterm year. You have to be psychologically prepared for the red ink.
It's like stress testing your own portfolio before the market does it for you.
Exactly. And I guess that leads to the final piece of advice. Don't panic.
The classic.
It sounds cliche, but in 2026, it is vital. You have to understand that this volatility is a feature, not a bug, of this specific year.
So when I see the news in September screaming about a market crash...
When you see those headlines, just remember this deep dive. Remember that this is normal.
It's just the midterm curse doing its thing before the golden period kicks in.
Exactly. Zoom out.
So let's wrap this up. We're looking at a potential 16% upside according to Wall Street, but we're staring down the barrel of a historical 18% intra-year drop.
It's a paradox. High optimism, high historical volatility.
The key takeaway is, expect the chop, don't be surprised by it, but keep your eye on that November to April horizon.
And use the volatility to your advantage. If you have cash and patience, 2026 could set your portfolio up for years to come.
I love that. Now, before we go, I want to leave the listener with one final thought.
Yes.
You mentioned uncertainty earlier.
Yes.
I think we often confuse uncertainty with risk.
That is a very important distinction.
We feel uncertain because of the election, right?
Yeah.
We don't know who's going to control Congress. But does that uncertainty actually increase the long-term risk of the companies you own?
That is the question to mull over. Does a shifting Congress actually stop Apple from selling iPhones? Does it stop people from buying groceries or needing health care?
Probably not.
Usually the answer is no. The business keeps running. The stock price might fluctuate because of the mood of the market, but the risk of the business itself failing hasn't necessarily changed.
The noise is loud, but the signal is steady.
Perfectly said. Focus on the signal.
All right, that is a wrap on our deep dive into the 2026 midterm market paradox. If you want to see these charts for yourself, especially that Carson research graph on the midterm cycle, Check the sources we've linked. It's really worth a look.
It's definitely easier to sleep at night when you can see the data with your own eyes.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.